the best Eagles basketball coverage. This is Creature Report.
Happy holidays, Eagles fans. It's your boy, Elliott, on the mic. I am aligned with Russell. Actually, I meant to say adjacent. He is at a 90-degree... That's not even adjacent. You are 90 degrees.
I'm perpendicular from you.
He's rotated 90 degrees and somewhat adjacent from me.
I'm near you, essentially.
Relatively.
Yes.
Anyways, we are back after like almost a month off, which was crazy because the holidays always seem to push time into warp speed. So it seems like we just did a pod not that long ago, but it's been about a month.
We had a lot of away games after having a crap ton of home games to do post pods with, but
you're right, and you were busy cruising the Caribbean.
Yes,
Barbuda.
Cruising. I did not go to Barbuda. If I did, I would have asked good old Kevin Samuel what kind of places I should be hitting up. Instead, I went to Mexico. And
it's Mexico.
And Honduras.
It's Honduras.
Yeah, I had a good time over Christmas with the wife. Just cruising the Carib.
Cool, man. Well, you didn't miss anything except the best start in FGCU's D1 history.
I saw most of that.
He saw all the notifications.
I could have paid for quote-unquote high-speed internet on the ship, but it was like $100 a day or something insane.
Chump change.
I paid for slow internet for one day, and that was not worth it. It was only like $25.
Damn.
But it was like enough to slowly load your email and send it.
That's
slowly.
worth like $5.
Yeah, at most. But for a whole day, it was like I think it was $23.99 for like 2 gigs of speed.
If you'd like to contribute to Russell's GoFundMe for recovery on that, you can Venmo him at RussellKellyVenmo.com. So let's, I guess, circle back to the hoops.
Hoops.
When was the last game you went to / watched?
Last game we watched would have been Robert Morris. Before that was FAMU.
So yeah, your last game witnessed live on TV was Robert Morris, which ended up being a pretty good game.
Yep.
So yeah, since the last pod we did, which was the Hilton Garden Inn Classic, we haven't touched on the blasphemous FIU loss, the gritty Dartmouth win. The Dartmouth win was a blowout that looks...
we dominated, and then it was overtime all of a sudden.
Right. The solid Florida A&M win, the Robert Morris win, the Mercer win, and the Canisius stain.
Stain on the end of the season.
So I guess real quickly we can talk about... There's not much to talk about because it's kind of in the past, but all the games minus FIU, and then obviously Canisius, which we thought was going to swing in our favor. Minus those 2 games, every other game was pretty good.
Yeah, even if there were, natural rough patches within the games themselves, it still ended with, generally double-digit victories and looking like we're better than them.
I know you missed Mercer live, but that had one of the best surges, like comeback surges in the second half that I think I've witnessed. It's hard to remember all the events, but we were down 12 and we ended up winning by 12, so we essentially
flip the script.
Essentially, I mean, that's a 24-0 run. Swing, yeah. So it was pretty impressive to see that surge in the second half. If we look at the first half, the first half score, 26-18, and we had 49.
I remember seeing
in the second half.
I remember seeing a stat about like 0 3-pointers made in the first half, or like 1 or something crazy, and there were 8 made in the second half, and that's this team, for better or for worse, it's when the three balls gotta fall, or else it's going to be either a close game that shouldn't be close, or might not go in our favor.
But we will digress since all these games are over a week plus now in the books, and kind of let's talk about where we are today. 11-4.
10-4.
No, I thought it was.
No, we're 10-4.
Sorry, 10-4, leading the ASUN for whatever that's worth in non-conference. Russell, do you think? And obviously the answer is yes, but has the team met your expectations up to this point?
Definitely. And one thing I kind of want to allude to at the very least is, like, I'm not going to call people out. I'm not going to complain too much, but like, we're 10-4. We won 10 games last year. 10-8 on the season. Of course, it was shortened. It's a little bit, not that great of a point. Okay, go back the year before. We won 10 games the year before in a full season. A full season, 30-some games or whatever. Won 10 games. Right now, we played 14 games and have won 10. We still have like 16 games to go or something at least before, and that's not including, tournament play and whatever.
And one of those is like a top 8 team right now that we lost to.
Yeah, and a good game. The score looks like it was really bad. It was very competitive, most of it. Obviously, referring to USC, played a good Loyola Chicago team, played well most of the game, played a solid Rhode Island team. If you look at their record right now, I don't have it in front of me, but I know. Yeah, I know I looked semi-recently, and they're a solid team, and we beat them. And
so really that leaves you 2 wins that are, or 2 losses that are not great,
right?
Which is FIU, which actually was a pretty good team.
Yeah, they're a decent team. Like that's a game that even if you get rid of like the FIU juju that FGC always has, that was still a game that maybe we win by a little bit, maybe we lose by a little bit.
The frustrating part of that game is we were within like 1 or 2,
right, within
like the last 5 minutes.
And then it was
I
a
think.
Collapse,
and then we kind of just collapsed.
Minutes. Yeah, there was just no shots went in, and then obviously I didn't get to watch Canisius, but I did a bunch of research before the game on the team. They're not very good record-wise, so I obviously thought we were going to win like most people. And the thing about that is that you got to remember, first of all, you got to be mad that it's a loss, right? You're going to be annoyed at that. Then you got to zoom out and say, okay, we're 10-4, lost to a seemingly bad team, also beat good teams, played good teams well, but won most of our games. And then think about how, we play basketball in Fort Myers, Florida, traveled to New York to play an away game in Buffalo, and like it's hard to play on the road against any team, let alone traveling, to New York
2 days before Christmas.
Right, before Christmas, and it's just like a lot of variables there. I'm not saying it was a bad idea to do that. You still should have won the game.
Still no excuses, yeah.
No, you still should have won the game. It's just after you have your initial annoyance, I guess, you zoom out and you say, okay, here are all the variables that took place. And now, I don't know about you. You comment on this after me, but like losing to Canisius doesn't change anything about my perception of the team. Like, it would have been really cool to go into conference play at 11-3, best record, start in the D1 era and all that, crazy stuff, already winning more games than we did the last 2 seasons each. We didn't, right? It was a loss. It's 10-4 instead of 11-3. It would have been nice to have 11, but it's like, it doesn't change my opinion of the team, like going forward in ASUN play. What about you?
Yeah, so my philosophy on this is, of course, as fans, we want to win every game that's supposed to be won. I'm sure the players want that even more. I'm sure Coach Fly wants that even more. At the end of the day, for most basketball conferences, the non-conference doesn't matter when it comes to affecting your seeding and your post-season berth and tournament and all that fun stuff. It matters more so if you're ranked, I guess. And
there's an element of confidence that goes into it.
Yeah.
Because I think about like UF and them having to get crapped on all the non-conference season, and then I feel like they always have slow starts in ASUN, and then they find their form if they're a good team, and they become formidable. But
just like all the other smaller mid conferences and smaller,
they get crapped on in non-conference.
UNF by design.
Yeah, and then they have to sort of build confidence that they weren't able to build before.
Yeah, I don't think the team lost any confidence or chemistry in their teammates, if that's what you were alluding to earlier. But no, my whole thing is I hope it pissed us off. I hope it pissed the team off that they lost when they shouldn't have, and that's really all you can ask for, that they come into the next one with more grit, more determination, more fire, and now it's conference time.
Yeah, 2 games in a row with explosive, good-looking second halves for the most part. The first game was against Mercer, like we talked about. They were able to overcome it. The second game, they just weren't able to do enough.
I guess the first half bugs are still an interesting thing that we've noticed. And you obviously can't be a great team if you can't drop those first half jitters or whatever it is.
2 full halves. You got to have it.
So by the time you're in tourney or ASUN tourney, whatever it is, those got to go.
Or at least be minimized to a great degree.
Right. I'm just saying you can't shoot 15% in the first half and expect to win, or 20%, whatever that has been. It's been dismal. So, yeah, at the end of the day, conference is a whole new record, and if we could replicate something similar to 10-4 in conference, I'd be pretty impressed.
Yeah, so I want to say one thing, and then I got a question, and that's, I started saying this before, but like, fans, anyone listening, like, be happy, like, be excited, like, don't be afraid you're gonna get let down. Maybe you do, but who wants to like stew in, oh, this is all fake, this is for nothing, it's 10 wins, whatever, blah blah blah, this team's gonna collapse, like, and then they do. What do you want to be congratulated for being right, or do you want to have a good time while we're winning games and hopefully win a bunch more? Like, be a fan, don't be a critic, I guess. We get mad after losses, of course. We do too.
Well, it's funny because we're fans, but also critics.
Right. But, I mean, are you enjoying the season, though? Like,
yeah, the difference between you and me is we're not whining.
That's fair. Exactly. Like,
so
it's just,
my
enjoy
thing is treat a loss like Michael Jordan would. Meaning, like, get pissed that you weren't on your A game and get better. And that's it. Not like, nah, this team sucks. Even though it's the best start in their history.
And it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's this misconception that it's been a weak schedule. I don't consider that to be true. Like, we mentioned Rhode Island, USC, Loyola Chicago, and then you have a slew of other D1 teams. We're not talking about, walloping on Florida National or Memorial or whatever.
I think everyone's mindset, including you and I, since our Dunk City success was, man, we could be like a Gonzaga, or we could be like Butler, and we could host all these schools. Well, naive us realize that that's not like realistic, and we can't host teams of that caliber until we're that caliber for 5+ years.
But I mean, Gonzaga's not playing a bunch of D1 powerhouses besides a couple in their regular season.
They have quite a few.
But
to maintain that number one ranking, they've quite a few.
Just enough though, because I mean, even they don't want to. If they lose half of those, then they don't have that high ranking.
I'm not trying to fight you, but I'm looking it up now because I'm curious. But yeah, I mean, most mid-majors are not playing Duke and Kentucky night in, night out.
It's like if you, in my opinion, as a mid-major, if you can play the teams we played in the Hilton Garden Inn Classic and win, if you can play FIU, be competitive, maybe win, maybe lose, if you can play Mercer, if you can play, they're in a better conference than us technically, SoCon or whatever.
So you're right and not right. Gonzaga played Dixie State, but then they played number 5 Texas and won. They played a couple no-names, UCLA and won. Duke.
That's a big deal.
Lost to Duke, but they were number 4. Played 16 Alabama. Played 25 Texas Tech. And that looks to be it. So, they got like...
It sounds like they're...
5 or 6
like, you can't even consider Gonzaga to be a mid-major team at this point. Like, I guess size-wise and market-wise and conference-wise, yes. But success-wise and all that extra stuff, like, you always expect them to be in the tournament. That's not what you expect of a mid-major team. Like they're a powerhouse, not just a mid-major powerhouse. They're an NCAA powerhouse.
Over years and years and years of success.
It's decades at this point of,
and we are decade.
Yeah.
We are literally at decade.
Right.
Not well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Decade.
Of D1. Yeah. So yeah, it's like I'm at the point where I don't expect that. I expect, 3-ish every season, like solid, strong opponents, whether that's a strong mid-major or a D1 or a high major coming in, or not coming in usually, but just competition.
I would love to see this list of, there's 350-ish D1 schools,
something like that.
All of the D1 schools that have not even made the tournament or even won a game.
Or how many D1 schools are...
And I'm not justifying our success as
Right.
the pedestal of
Right.
success, but
how many D1 schools have been around for like 70, 80 years and haven't made it to the tournament since 1979?
right.
And it's hard to be good. And that's kind of what I'm coming back to, is the fact that, we were more than competitive, very good for year after year after year. Then we've had, 2.5 down seasons, and now we're sitting here looking pretty good. Like every team's got inconsistency. Yes, some games there's a lot of turnovers. Yes, some games there's a shooting drought, some kind of lull in offensive production. In pretty much every single game, there's also this boom of offensive production that's really fun to watch. Whether it's passing related or blocking shots or dunking or 3-pointers from the logo or whatever it is. Like, it's good stuff. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
So now that you've seen, how the team performs against, a varying degree of difficulty, and styles of teams through non-conference play, coming out with a 10-4 record, like, how do you see that translating to conference play in the ASUN, which is not a very, highly regarded a conference, with the exception of, Liberty is Liberty and a couple of the new, programs and stuff like that. How do you see, I guess, the 10-4 start against the teams we played translating to conference play?
So yeah, while the conference has had a shakeup in the last few years as far as additions of teams, departures of teams losing their the top of the rankings to go down, kind of like us. I kind of look at conference the same way I look at FIU in a sense, like always a thorn in our side, but like we can beat them, if that makes sense. So like, and this is a kind of a cop-out answer, but I see conference play going very similar to how we played in non-conference, as far as record goes. From a very broad sense.
If we were to win, say, 75% of our conference games, is that kind of where your expectations are? Like, we'll drop one or two?
So we play 14 and there's 16 conference games?
16 regular season conference games.
So
if there's 16 regular season conference games,
well,
and
now
we
you're going to make me
win,
do the math.
12 wins would be 75%.
12
so if we're
4
12-4 in
would
conference,
be a very good success.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
So that would mean overall record is 22-8. Yeah, which is only one game off of our gut gamble prediction.
To me, that is an astounding year.
Yeah, that's 22 wins is great.
That's still like kind of high hopes, but I can't see us losing a ton in conference either.
I mean, add 2 losses to that, and to where it's 10
it's a 20-win season.
Yeah, 10-6, and that's, I mean,
20-10. Which is,
if that doesn't sound believable to you based on how like this season has looked, then I don't know what you're watching.
Right.
So, and yeah, a 20-10 season. Come on now, that's good.
But it's hard to tell because without doing a deep dive on every single ASUN team, all the new additions,
which we will do over time.
You look at teams like UNF that set themselves up for a tough non-conference, and their record is 4-8 or something like that, or worse, like 4-10, something like that. The back of your mind's like, yeah, ASUN sucks this year. We're gonna sweep, but that's never the case. Kennesaw, Stetson, however bad they're doing, they can put up a fight, and they can.
Jacksonville, no matter how bad, it seems to be kind of a tougher.
So
not as much in recent years, but
even if we went 500, in conference, 8-8.
So 8-8.
You add 8 to our
That's an 18-win season. If you zoom out, that's
18
not
and
bad.
12.
Like that's
And I feel like that's
the low
I feel
side
like
of
that's
good.
worst case scenario.
yeah. I agree.
I think there's at least a 60-70% chance we're hitting 20 wins this year. And to me, that was, I think we talked about that. That was a win for us in our book, like a very solid win to hit 20 wins.
I was saying
Obviously,
really,
the ASUN tournament and winning that is more desirable than
gut
20
gamble
wins.
time. I was saying that if it's an 18-win season, it's a success. Like now, I almost think that meter moves. Like I feel like maybe 20 is kind of what needs to happen.
So I still agree that 18 is a success, but the meter is more realistically pointing towards 20.
Exactly, and so yeah, I mean that my expectations have sort of shifted to it's got to get at least an 8-8 in conference, and hopefully better and win 20-something games. That's not something that happened all the time in the Dooley era. It was around 20 every time.
I would be disappointed if it's less than 500 in conference and we do not win a ASUN tourney game or at least 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd like to be in the ASUN championship game
with a 50% conference win-loss record. That would be a successful season. Anything above that would be great.
Grandiose.
But that's not how successful people should talk, Russell. Successful people say, we already won, we just haven't got there yet.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we already won the ASUN tourney, it just hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
You manifest it.
Speak it into existence.
Mm-hmm.
Just like LeVar Ball.
So, Michael Fly, if you're not saying that you're winning the whole NCAA tournament already, then you need to start.
You're not doing it right, man.
You need to start manifesting that. So, yeah. Wings up.
Balls deep.
What's that? What's that song you sing at New Year's? Old Lang Syne?
Auld Lang Syne, yeah.
Auld
Which just
Lang?
means old. It's AULD.
Yeah.
But it just means old.
And what's Lang Syne? Like a name?
I don't remember.
Well, it was good to be back in the saddle with you, except Dawson wasn't here, so
He'll be on the next one probably.
praise God.
Yeah, we'll do a post pod after one of the upcoming
Conference
home
openers.
games. Yeah,
I think January 8th is our first home game. If I'm not
So the
mistaken.
4th is our first game, though, right?
Yeah, but I think our first home game
Is on the 8th.
is on the 8th.
I'm Henry the 8th. I am.
On the 4th, we play North Florida. Sorry, that's in Fort Myers.
Oh, yo.
Well, guys, have a happy holidays, New Year, weekend, weekday, hour, minute. Be happy. Don't whine. That's it from us for the year of 21. Thankful to have your little ears listening to us. And you can listen to us for next year. Until then,
Toodles.
bye.
Peace.
Keep your eye on the grand old
flag.